is want to find out what's on your mind. Is there one thing in your game right now that you're working on? Maybe you can't quite get it figured out, or something that you'd like to start embarking on with your game. Could be technique, tactics, could be mental, could be fitness, could be diet, could be anything, and it could be something really, really specific. Maybe you're a league player, maybe you're a tournament player, but let me know what's on your mind. And then the second reason is, yeah, next Thursday I am having I'm hosting a live webinar. Really going to talk about SLR, skill level range, what that means, and why it's so important that we have a small skill level range. We're going to get into that next Thursday at noon Pacific. That would be 3 o'clock Eastern. And just want to make sure that I've got a couple of practice webinars before I get going Thursday, which I think I've done that before, where, I haven't done it for a while and get into it. And next thing you know is I've completely forgotten how it works. So Robin, thank you for that relationship between calmness and tracking the ball. Detail that a little bit more for me. What does that mean to you? And then I'll get back to Robin on that. I mean, what I'm thinking when you say relationship between calmness and tracking the ball, I think a lot of us sort of fight the ball, and whatever shots coming in, our intention is not only to hit a good shot, but we want to get rid of the ball. And I think one of the things that I got from Tom Stowe, who I worked with back in the day, Tom would always, he talked about the conk, the CONK, and the conk was more the concussion that you can create when you make contact with the ball. And the way he described it to me was that you want the ball to actually kind of compress on the string bed. So to me, that meant, well, I got to let the ball sit on the string bed for a little bit, and not where I'm slowing down the swing, but that I'm actually swinging forward towards the target. So there's a longer moment in time where the ball has got some time in the string bed. Let it compress against the string bed, unless you're going for some unbelievably unusual amount of spin of some kind. But even if it's semi-top or semi-underspin, you still want the ball to kind of compress a little bit against the string bed. So, and I'm sure that, a lot of you guys who've maybe either taken lessons or taught a little bit, they have that 3-ball thing where the coach will say, oh, I want you to hit ball through ball 1, 2, and 3 as you go out through contact. And so for me, that maybe is a little counterintuitive in terms of answering your question, Robin, but it's not calmness for me as it is trusting that I'm going to allow the ball to stay with me. I'm not going to get rid of it. Right. And not sure if that you're saying if you get too excited, it seems to me that my eyes jerk around a lot, like you can tighten muscles when serving or hitting a passing shot. Yeah, I mean, no question. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to put this up there. What does this do? There you go. Yeah, if you get too excited, it seems to me that the eyes jerk around like you can get tightened muscles. And look, I mean, who was the great sprinter back in the 60s? Charlie Green. Or Charles Green. Again, I thought he won as Charlie, but he was one of the world's, certainly one of America's great sprinters. And he wore sunglasses when he raced. And the press would always, kind of say, well, what are you doing, man? Why are you trying to be cool wearing the shades? And he goes, well, no. He says, I want my eyes to be relaxed when I'm running, because if I tighten up my eyes and I tighten up my face, and if I tighten up my face, then then the neck gets tight and the shoulders get tight. And I found that exhaling through contact helps me not tighten up the face. And so I would encourage you to go out and hit tennis balls and feel, are the muscles in your face just kind of hanging, right? Are they just hanging, kind of dripping down off your face so that you're not tightening up? And there's no question. I mean, that if we tighten up eyes, that, yeah, we just get tight all over. So, and Robin, you're right. Bounce hit. um, improves ball watching. It makes one calmer, takes it easy. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And, one of the things that I've been really disciplining myself on recently is to make sure that I am exhaling right at the moment of contact. And when I do that, my conscious brain's really only consumed with, well, when's the ball going to arrive? And I put out an email, was it yesterday, when we talked about, well, what are the three fundamentals that you really need to have if you're going to be able to be a consistent shot maker? And number one is spacing. Number two is racket prep. And number three is timing. And for me, the conscious effort of consistent timing is exhaling or a blowout, or, I don't like the loud grunt, but, a soft, a grunt that actually kind of goes out where you're, as opposed to a grunt that goes in where you tighten. So it's really an exhale. It's not an inhale. And I think hopefully that answers your question, Robin. Let me go back up here and okay, let's see what happens. Here we go. Oh, good. Next question is from Don. 2 questions about approaching the volley, how to get more stick rather than mere block, and how to really see opponent clues to get back for the lob. Oh, I see. Okay. For the lob reply. Yeah. So yeah, technique wise on the volley, what I found is I go back to Tom Stowe when he worked with me on my volley. When I first went to see him, what was happening was I'd always heard that you got to make contact out in front with a volley, right? You got to be out in front. And so when I would get out in front, it was dead. I could get the ball in the direction I wanted to go, but I didn't really have any stick on it. And I certainly had no slight underspin skid, so that when it bounced, it didn't bounce. It didn't bounce and just sit up like it was before when my contact was too far in front. It would actually skid and stay low and might even pick up a little speed through the skid. So for me, it was, I got to make contact later. And what he did for me is he sat me down on a stool. He had like a wooden bar stool with, the rungs. I mean, it was tall, right? So, and it had the rungs around where the feet were, and he sat me on the stool, kind of got me at a 45-degree angle where I was facing the net post on my forehand. And he said, you got to get your feet off the court. You got to put them on the rungs on the stool. So the first couple, and he just underhand fed me balls, didn't feed off the racket. I reached so far forward that I fell off the stool, not face first, but I had to get my feet off the rungs or else I would have gone face first. So he kind of looked at me with like, all right, let's try another one. And the same thing, I was too far in front. And then, the same kind of look like, okay, let's try it without without you falling forward. What that meant to me was I've got to wait for this ball to come to me so much deeper into the right point of contact that is aligned to body balance and posture in just a way that it's not way out in front. It might be slightly in front, but it's not so far in front that you can't get a little natural carve on it. So to me, what I would do is get someone out there, you may have to get a little resourceful in trying to find a stool. You could do it with a little bench or something, but then your feet are on the court. But really what you want is to have your feet off. That gives you the quickest feedback in terms of the feeling that you get with the stick that you can get in the volley, a little bit of underspin if you don't reach too far. And then look, how do you really get the clues that you got an opponent who's about to lob? And if they're back on the baseline and either in singles, I'm up at net and I see them backing up a hair, not really stepping in to kind of drive the ball. Well, for me, the brain goes, man, you better be looking for a lob. So I would rather be ready for the lob going up. And if he's backing up, whether it's singles or doubles, I don't think he's going to be able to really drive it big without stepping forward. So I'm just looking for it. And as soon as it goes up, I'm just immediately taking 2 or 3 side steps, going backwards. I'm never literally backing up. I've seen it before. I'll never forget Key Biscayne, Florida, back in the mid-'70s once. Luckily, it wasn't on my court. It was on the court next to me. Some guy was teaching a guy hit overheads, and this guy literally backed up and tripped and fell over and, banged his head, back of his head on the court. So, anytime I teach the overhead, I'm always saying the moment you back up, that you don't turn the shoulders and actually go side to side or kind of sidestep back, I'm stopping the drill. I'm just stopping the drill. So what I like to do as soon as the lob goes up, I like to take 2 or 3 automatic steps to make sure that I can get a read on the depth. And if it's really deep, well, I'm already starting to go back, because the first moment when we turn with the lob, we're not exactly 100% sure what the depth is. And too often what players do to read it, to see it, to get a clear vision of the depth of the lob, is they turn and they freeze for a second so their eyes aren't moving. And when you do that, lots of times the lob is not even that deep, but it's far enough back where really now it's a tough ball. So I'd rather err on the side of getting too far back, seeing it, all right, this is a medium to shorter lob, and be able to put on the brakes and now step forward and get some extra momentum through, body weight moving forward as I swing in the overhead. So anticipation wise, I'm pretty much looking for, if, in singles, if I pulled a guy way out wide, I think the lob's coming, right? Or if I push a guy and I see him backing up, I think the lob's coming. And that's all that I really need, is just that's sort of in the front of my brain. Hey man, good chance the lob's coming. So I'm not surprised. If it doesn't come, if they try to pass me, okay, I'm still ready to go. So, Don, hope that helps. Jerry, how important is the flexible wrist in ground strokes? It seems to be a big focus among online coaching right now. Yeah, I think today I was out practicing my slice backhand, which is clearly the best shot that I've got. But I like to tinker with how firm do I want to make sure the wrist is through contact. And I find that with the slice backhand, it's not firm where I'm squeezing the racket tight, but I'm not really releasing the racket head through it. I might sometimes, if I get pulled way out wide, really, really far out wide, where I feel like, and again, like I said before, that's probably going to be a lob. But most of the time, I don't want to get kind of loosey-goosey in the wrist as I'm hitting that slice backhand, because you really risk kind of getting under the ball too much, and the ball can go over, but it just sits up. It just sits up. My apologies for that sound, but I don't want to mute my computer for fear I'm going to mute the computer. I'm going to mute the microphone as well. So on the forehand, however, I do feel a little bit more relaxed. I'm not really, I don't believe in the windshield wiper thing. That's not my style of hitting the ball. If I want to get topspin, I can get topspin simply by, I can relax the wrist a little bit, get under the ball with a racket head. And then really I'm swinging the racket from my right shoulder, being right-handed, as opposed to really kind of artificially flipping or twisting the wrist, or snapping the wrist. But I don't like to have the death grip, because any kind of death grip, I think players, the reason they have tennis elbow, they have wrist problems, they have shoulder problems, they have lower back problems. The death grip is just squeezing the life out of the handle. And I think it happens more in the forehand than any other stroke. So I would encourage you to get out there and feel what is a relaxed enough wrist tension, grip pressure, that when you swing your body, for me, it's the shoulder. I'm just really looking at bringing my right shoulder up and through the ball, and, everything follows, right? The racket follows. So I don't feel like I'm swinging with the hand so much, but I want to make sure that the wrist is relaxed. So I get racket speed and I get a nice high quality spin. Too much tension in it, it just slows the racket down too much. Don't get the pace I want, don't get the spin. And I find that if there's too much racket release with the wrist, if it's too loose, I don't know, maybe if you practice like 2 or 3 hours a day on it, you could get it. But I think it's a real timing issue. The pros can do it. The pros make it look so darn easy. But, these guys, I was asking someone the other day about Carlito, about Alcaraz, and I said, the kid's 20 years old, and let's say he's been playing tennis for, let's say, since 5, and he's been playing tennis for 15 years. And, here's a guy who's been playing 15 years. Has he hit more tennis balls in those 15 years than I have hit? I'm almost 75, and I started playing when I was like 8 or 9. Has he hit more balls in 15 years than I've hit in 65, let's say? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say when these guys are on the court 3, 4, 5 hours a day, God, the reps are just insane how many balls are getting to hit. So that to me is a real advanced technique. Jerry, what you're asking is a flexible wrist. And again, flexible may be okay, but I wouldn't make it artificial where you're actually trying to manipulate it too much. Just because I think that the timing issue is really, really tough. All right, let's see who else we got here. Okay, I didn't. Not sure, Ron, what you meant by except when dealing with Djokovic's parents. I didn't see anything before that. But again, Ron, let's kind of chew on this one here. How do you determine who plays the ad court? Watching from Athens, Georgia. By the way, my oldest daughter went to Georgia Southern in Statesboro for 4 years, graduated there with some honors, and absolutely love the South. We were Northern California, and I just said, guys, to all of my 3 daughters, if you want to go to school, great. I'm happy to pay for out-of-state tuition. Please go to a different culture. Don't stay in the state of California. Anyway, so of course she picks just about the furthest place to get was with Statesboro, Georgia. Anyway, she loved it. It was a great education for her. So, how do you determine who plays the ad court? Typically what I do is I go, who's got the strongest overhead? This is assuming we have 2 right-handed players. And if that's the case, then who's got the strongest overhead? And it's not who's got the strongest volleys. I don't buy into the thing that the backhand volleys are naturally weak. In fact, I think natural technique, it's easier to hit a pretty good backhand volley than it is a forehand volley. So, but I think the other thing too is that most lobs that go up end up in the half of, I'm not going to come out with this right, but they're going to end up more in the middle of the court. Obviously, they're going to end up on the ad side if you're a right-handed player. All right, you're going to play an overhead. But if you're on the deuce side and you're a right-handed player and your backhand's in the middle, I'm still going to have my guy who's over on the ad side take those lobs, assuming it's going to be a relatively overhead opportunity. And if they've got to come into my half of the court just to be able to hit it, I'm going to say, yes, do it. We're way better off as a team with you hitting that overhead, even if it's a little bit inside my deuce side of the court, than me having to go up there and hitting a high backhand volley. Let's be realistic. How many of us can really snap off a high backhand overhead? I don't really know anyone. I know some guys who are strong, but it's rough. So that's kind of the first thing I go with. Like my wife and I, she's a lefty. So we both have got overheads in the middle. And, it's just a real bonus. And so if you can't find yourself a left-handed partner, if you're right-handed, then that's what I would do. I would go whoever's got the strongest overhead. And it's got to be a big difference maker, right? You guys can't, this guy's slightly better. I don't think that makes enough of a difference depending on, maybe who returns serve better from the deuce court to the ad court. I don't go with the mental thing that you really ought to have the better player always play the ad court because they're going to get the opportunities to close out games. Well, that only means that you're going to get the opportunity if your weaker deuce side player doesn't screw up, right? And so that you're not always on the ad side as a better player having to clean up and at least get back to deuce. So sometimes you almost want the better player over on the deuce side who's going to win a majority of those return points and take a little bit of the pressure off that weaker player. But all things being equal, you know what? Go with the stronger overhead on that ad side. Okay, let's see. Don, never heard that. got to try it closer in. Okay, not sure where we're going with that. All right, Bryant. Fitness-wise, I have a number of things to work on, but ignoring that, how can I work on getting lower? Long-term and short-term stretches before the match, getting lower. Yeah. So stretching is one thing to do for sure. But, one of the things I do just about every time on the court is I like to go out when I'm done and do my 5 sprints. And the 5 sprints are from one fence to the other fence, right? So 120-foot sprint. Most courts are 120 by 60. So I'm going to do a sprint from one fence to the other. Obviously, I got to be on one side of the net or the other. And then when I come back to recover, I do 4 side to sides going one direction, and then I do flip around and do 4 side to side footwork drills going the other direction. And then I just do a couple little backwards, kind of tippy toes going backwards. And then I turn around, and by the time by then I'm back to the net post. And what I do then is I do 10 volley lunges. And the lunges are perfectly on balance, perfect posture. I'm doing a forehand volley. I'm then kind of dancing over a little 2 or 3 step little dance move, coming over, and then doing a backhand volley where I'm trying to get as low as I possibly can. It's a lunge, right? Forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand. That's 4 of them. I do a set of 5, which is 10 different volleys, and that typically gets me back pretty close to that fence where I started the sprints. Take maybe 15 seconds to kind of recover, and then sprint again. And I do 5 of those to the end. So I think lunges, I think squats, and I also think if you want to play lower, that you've also got to throw some stretching in there, right? You just got to make sure that your hamstrings, your quads, all that stuff are really flexible. You got to create some flexible strength, and there's no real big, huge investment other than time. And how much time? 5 sprints, that whole thing. What does it take me? 7 minutes? I don't know, maybe. So if I'm doing that 4 times a week, I'm getting lower on the volleys. I'm getting lower on better posture, better balance on low balls, and not falling over, being able to recover. So quick fix? No, not a quick fix with this stuff. None of the fitness is. It's a freaking lifestyle, right? I don't go like a week before a tournament and start doing lunges and squats and sprints. This is just an ongoing deal. So hope that helped. And Brian, looking forward to our call. I don't think it's for a while, a couple of weeks or so. Okay, let's go with Sandra. Do you recommend playing around the service line for seniors doubles? Yeah, that's a great question. Man, it really depends on your partner. If you're talking to senior where, either you're really playing up an age group where, or you've got a partner who's injured, and, or maybe a permanent type of thing, right? Where they had a knee blown out in football or whatever, in soccer or something like this decades ago, and they're really compromised mobility wise. And so for me, where at this age, because it's a lifestyle, like I just mentioned, and knock on wood, I can still move around the court pretty well. If I'm playing with someone who's a little compromised, what I'm going to do is encourage them. Let's not worry about lobs going over your head. I'll go ahead and cover them. And so what that means is that now they've got freedom to play in the middle of their service box. And sometimes if they want to close a little bit tighter for whatever reason, I've got no problem with that, because I've already committed to covering most of the court. And so, yeah, will I have to play some shots from around the service line? Or I should say, I think what your question, Sandra, is, do I play around the service line sometimes not knowing what the opponents are about to give me or give us? And I go, yeah, absolutely. So the other thing too is that if you've got both players who are average to somewhat compromised mobility wise, I would tell you that you've got to get really good at knowing where the ball is over there on their side of the court. So the general rule for me is that we never really play side by side, right? The only time we would ever be side to side, maybe service line, would be if we've just played a shot that literally goes right back down the middle of the court to them with both of them, let's say back in the baseline. But other than that, and I just don't think that happens too often. But other than that, what I would suggest is that you're always in a staggered position, meaning that if the ball is in front of you, right? So let's say you're on the deuce side and the ball's in front of you, meaning that it's on the ad side over there. It's directly in front of you. Well, you're the player who should be in the middle of the service box in doubles and not worrying about the lob going over you. Maybe a hair, maybe one step back from there. But if the ball's in the diagonal from you, meaning if I'm on the ad side and the ball's on the diagonal on the ad side over there, I'm definitely on the service line. I'm definitely there because I just want my partner up. I feel like it's easier for me to cover a deep lob than it is for my partner. I'm never going to tell him, hey, dude, you got your side and I got mine, and I'll shake hands with you when we're done. So I really believe in the staggered setup depending on where the ball is. So like drill that I used to do a lot when I was teaching, especially at the Cal Club in San Francisco, is we would have 4 players in the court, and I would be, feeding balls from behind the 2 players up at net. And the drill would start with 2 players up at net, literally in the middle of their respective service boxes. And then the other side would be 2 players back in the baseline. And I would feed balls without the 2 players on my side because they can't see where I'm going to feed because they're looking across the net. I would feed to one side or the other, and they would have to shift accordingly. So for example, if I had both players up at net in the middle of their service box and I fed a ball to the ad court over there, well, the person on the ad court next to me would have to back up, and the person who was, their partner would maybe take one step forward. So if in a point, so that's the start of the point, right? And then whatever would come back, if one of the net players changed the direction to the other side, to the deuce side, well, then the 2 players would have to shift right accordingly. So there's always that staggered thing. If I didn't make any sense, I know I kind of ran on with that. Just shoot me an email, brent@webtennis.com. I'll spend a little bit more time with you on that, but hope that helps, Sandra. Okay, we got anything else? Is that it? I think that's it for right now. So one of the things that I wanted to, and again, as I'm going through this next thing, I've got kind of a question for you. And if you've got your own question as I'm talking, go ahead and type it into the chat. But as you know, I'm doing a webinar this Thursday at noon Pacific time. As I've been alluding to in the emails the last few days, really trying to help you guys with getting better mindset skills for tennis. I'm just really kind of amazed that I haven't, even as a player and as a coach, that I was talking to my friend Jeff Jacklich just a few minutes before we started, and I said, can you imagine if we spent half the time working on mindset skills on and off the court, half the time that we do, let's say, drilling cross-court forehands or drilling cross-court backhands, and which is typically what players do, right? They go out and they just hit groundies, right? Maybe a few serves, maybe a few returns, which, by the way, I mean, the 2 most important shots in the game are the serve and the return. But I just thought, why aren't we spending more time on the mental skills? And I mean, proactively spending more time on that as we do. And I just, it was like a rhetorical question, because as soon as I answered it, I just said, can you imagine how much better all of us would be as players? And so if you're a 3-5 player, for example, you're a computer rated NTRP 3-5 player. And I've talked to you about the skill level range, right? Well, there are days when you play higher than a 3-5. during that day. Not the entire day, but maybe for a series of points, or maybe for a game or two, or maybe even for a set. You play up in the 3-7 range, somewhere in there. But there are days when you also don't, right? When you play down into if you're a 3-5, you play down in the 3-3-3-2 range. So your rating label is an average. And it doesn't mean that because you're a 3-5, every point you play at the 3-5 level. That's not how it works. So what's really helped me over the last, I'm going to say 12 months, because I've really dug in the last 12 months and spent way more time. And I used to be an on-court drilling monster. I mean, I would wear guys out, just wear them out, because I would want, no, let's go, no, let's do one more back. Come on, let's do another back. And yet, did the forehand really get any better? Once in a while, on some days it was better, but the overall thing, not really. I mean, it was already there. I already had good enough technique. So it really wasn't trying to drill it to death. And so I just kind of came on this thing, I got to do some mental training here. And so where I'm trying to go with this is that the skill level range that I just detailed, that we ought to be able, and this is what I've been able to do, is take that bottom range of my level. Like right now, I'm a computer 4.5. And there are days when I play up in the 4.8 range. Not all the time, but there were days when I would play down closer to 4.0. It was just, what? It would just drive me crazy. What is going on here? And so through training these 5, and I don't know why the number is 5. I don't think it's a magic number, other than those are the 5 things that I've been able to kind of look back over the last 10, 12 months ago. Well, here are the 5 things I worked on mentally that I habituated, that started to eliminate the bottom half of my skill level range. Where now when I go out and play, I'm playing with way more confidence, because I know, especially at the end of a set and the end of a match, I'm not going to dip down into the lower range anymore. I'm going to be not always at 4.8 or 4.9, but somewhere in there. So there's a trust that just feels different than it ever has before. And certainly my results over the last 10 months bear that out. And so the question I want to ask you is, let's see if I can word this right. So what would be a false belief about, if I was to deliver a course to you on really, here's what's working for me, here are these 5 habits. If I was to deliver a course to you, or propose that you buy this course, what would be a belief in terms of the delivery method, whether it's video or maybe just audio, or just pure text, right? Like a book. Would there be a belief, or would there be an objection that you would say, well, maybe I've tried that in the past and that just didn't work? I know I'm not really wording this or much articulation, but I'm looking for what someone might think that, probably that way of delivering is not the best way. Maybe the best way students think of, well, I really, in terms of the mental stuff, I need to be in front of a PhD certified sports performance enhancing whatever coach. I need to spend 5 sessions with that, as opposed to a book, as opposed to a video, as opposed to an audio. And so if you're thinking of anything, I'm not seeing anyone type it in right now, and that's fine. I know it's kind of a loaded question, but I'm looking. Okay, so let me ask you another question then. In terms of the mindset skills specifically for tennis, have you ever bought a book? Have you ever bought a video? Have you ever bought an audio before? And you don't have to say anything other than yes, I have, and what it is. You don't have to tell me the title or the author or anything like that. But have you bought anything in the past in terms of a mental skill training? And has it worked? Has it not worked? I know that I bought a boatload of stuff. And all right. So I would get an epiphany here and there, but it just really never seemed to click. Thanks, Brian. As an amateur, I think MP3 to listen to while driving to the courts would be ideal. The key would be a long version, MP3, and a short version to quickly review. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But yeah, Bill, thank you. Yeah, no, Ian's done some nice work on this. I think, Brian, to get back to your comment, listening to MP3s, to me is passive, right? It's listening, but it's not proactive. It's not really, it's not visualizing. It's not really repeating some words in terms of mindset training. It's not really reprogramming your subconscious where you're being proactive, where you're habituating something over and over and over again to where it's the same as what we do when we drill forehands and backhands or serves and volleys, right? Is we repeat it, is we drill it, is we try to groove it, right? And where are we grooving it? Well, we're grooving it into our subconscious, right? We don't just listen. And look, I'm totally with you that that's a part of what you're suggesting that I think is really valuable, is that you listen to, whether it's an affirmation or you listen to something on the way to a match to get you kind of in the frame of mind for playing. But to me, it's really about habits. And are you doing these daily habits to reprogram the way you think? And if you're not, I just don't think it sticks. Like, I don't think reading a book, even if you take notes, all right, you might get some epiphanies out of the book, but I don't think it's like a light switch when, all right, you take a weekend to read the book and then you go out and you flip on the light switch on the court, and now all of a sudden, boom, you're just a mental maestro out there. I really think it's got to be a lot more proactive habituating. So Robin, yes, inner tennis and then worked 4 decades. But yeah. Well, you know all this stuff as well as anybody. I just, my mind got stronger, his body deteriorated. Yeah, I agree. So Brian, you want some myelin? Absolutely. You want to myelinate, not me, but we can myelinate physical stuff, right? We can myelinate the forehand. Just got to do the right things over and over and over enough, build up enough myelin there in there, right? And you start to be able to repeat it unconsciously. I agree. But I also think you have to do the same thing mentally. You can't just get these epiphanies and go out there and go, okay, well, I'll try it. Let's see, Sandra, I bought several. I want something simple to start with and grow from there. Yeah, so I agree. And I think a step-by-step process that is actually tangible, right? That here are the things to say to yourself. Here are the things to visualize off the court. Here are the things to say to yourself in a practice session, as opposed to just kind of mindlessly seeing how big we can hit forehands and hoping that sticks. But I agree that it should be something that's simple, easy to understand, and is repeatable. And yet the kicker here of all this stuff, no matter how simple anyone makes it, it doesn't happen quickly. I mean, I said I've been doing this for 12 months. It's probably been longer than that. It's probably been 18 months. And I just started habituating it for nothing, nothing but better else to do. And I just sort of made a little reminder in my phone every day at 6:30. I get a reminder. Hey, read that thing that you wrote. And I'd read it to myself. And so over time, it starts to take hold. In fact, I'm going to tell you, Sandra, the first month I read something off the court, I just didn't believe it. I was going, this is baloney. This is not going to work. And then after a while, I started feeling like, you know what? I think this is starting to stick. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And then I just realized after playing, a couple matches against guys who I thought, not sure if I can get by this guy, I'm going, I'm never, ever missing a day of reading that affirmation and doing the other things that I've been doing. So it does take time. It does take time for sure. And I think that's the big challenge for most people, most players is, man, we want things so quickly. And it's just the worst. It's just the worst to want it quickly and yet realize that it's not going to happen quickly. And, people will dabble for, go back to the great George Leonard mastery, the dabbler, and they go, oh my God, they get this epiphany. Okay. And they try it, no quick results. And then they go on to something else. And the tough part is the learning curve and just sticking with it. And just knowing that if you've got the right information and you're doing it often enough, how can you help but not get better? You can't. Eventually the flywheel gets going and you can't stop all the good stuff that you've been doing. Don, it might be beneficial to see one of your matches with your voiceover, exactly what goes through your mind each point and between points. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I've got a couple of matches that I've done. One was a few years ago against Al Yearwood, the indoors in Houston, Texas. And then, ironically, another indoor match in Minneapolis. And it's interesting. I could probably go back to those matches, even though it's been maybe 5 or 6 years, and be able to tell you exactly what I'm thinking. But if I was to do a match, I could maybe do that. But if I was to do a match now, not that it's more recent that I can recall, but I'm so specific now with my between points routine, specific in terms of I'm going through the first two things automatically, no thinking about it. It's just habituated. And if you've seen my 4 parts between points routine video, you know that the third thing is, how do I want to start the next point? And I have so much better clarity now in terms of how I want to start the next point than ever before, because of the habits I've been building, but because I've really been zeroing in much more on what's happening over there on the other side of the net. What is it that opponent, either number one, doesn't want me to discover about them? Maybe a weakness. Maybe it's just one shot. I mean, I've had matches this year where I'm just telling myself, this guy is not going to see a forehand the rest of the match. And not that the guy's backhand, not that the guy's backhand was, super. Anyway, it was so good. I just said, I'm not going to give them their forehand, and I'll take my chances over here in the backhand side. And if the backhand's just as good, then I'll adjust and do something else. And typically what's happened in a couple matches this year, the forehand was outrageously good. And I said, okay, that's fine. You win. I'm just going to give you backhands. And I've joked with some guys going, I would have told the guy in the side change, hey, Bill, guess what? I'm not going to hit you another forehand today. So get ready to play just backhands. And I kind of joke about it. But, look, what happens when you play someone who's got, and I think I've gone way off track here in terms of answering Don's question. But what happens here when you decide that you found a weakness over there? And maybe the weakness is a backhand, just for example, right? And so you're just peppering the backhand. And eventually the guy over there starts to kind of really prepare for it. He runs around, starts hitting some big forehands, right? I'm happy with that, because now I've got the guy running around his backhand, probably taking himself off the court. What am I going to look for next? I'm going to look for the longest distance I can make him run for a drop shot, right? He's pulling himself out of position because I sense, or he senses, that I'm not going to play him a forehand. It's just going to be backhands. And now he's running around and pulling himself. So I don't mind it. Let me see if I can get reorganized here with Don's question. Yeah, matches. So, I think of a match now, I'd have much better clarity recalling, not because it's just recent, but recalling from point to point what I was thinking about of how I want to start the next point. And then the fourth thing is always that little positive self pump. So the 4 parts between points routine is huge. Parts 1, 2, and 4 are always the same for me. It's always part 3 that that I might change. I might go, well, if I'm serving, I'm going to serve out wide. I'm going to serve down the tee or whatever. It's 40 love. Hey, it's time to mix this up a little bit. I've been serving over here. So one time I'm just going to show him. I'm going to show him this different direction, or maybe this different kind of spin, or maybe that's 40 love, and I'm going to throw in a second serve first. But I'm getting way better clarity, not only because I'm more disciplined to those 4 parts between points routine, but just because the habituating I've been doing daily with these mindset shift habits are really, really paying off. So hope that helps. But a good suggestion, Don. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get an opponent who doesn't want to be videoed. I get it. So, but other guys don't mind it. Bryant, another way to look at it, too much variation is the enemy. Don't need 9 different forehands. Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started. I unsubscribed from one guy online who kept pumping me with, the 17 different volleys. What? And if you ever want to get under Jeff's skin, Jeff Jackledge, just raise that question. Hey, man, I heard about the set. No. Okay, I won't go there. Okay, Nona, good to have you. Glad you could make it. I tried to stretch it out long enough. I know you had tennis today and wanted you to join us, so thank you for getting on. I like Don's idea of you narrating. Yeah, one of your matches. All right, done. I'll get her done, even if it's a practice match. Robin mainly wanted us to do like we need to practice our strokes, stretch, and do fitness drills. Yeah. Still wondering when you and where, yes, your voiceover matches are illuminated. Good. All right. I love it. Time to do that. Bryant, yes. All right. So, guys, look, I've been going on here for 47 minutes. I'd like to do this on a regular basis if you feel there's some value for you. I mean, once a week would be kind of fine to get together. And look, if the time I schedule it, you can't make it, you want to shoot me an email before I go live, I'd be happy to answer it and then post the recording with your question. I'm really looking for players who are serious about competing. And I mean, ideally for me, it's senior tournament players, it's senior league players, but anyone who's really competitive. And if you're not playing league or tournaments, but you're playing enough practice matches and sets where this is it, man, this is do or die. This is for bragging rights, right? Whatever it is. Maybe you guys are playing for a beer, who knows? But if you feel that the mental training either is that you're underachieving on it, and I underachieved forever. I was the poster boy for yikes, just some really bad stuff on the court, and I'm really thankful that I've worked my way, studied enough, asked enough questions to figure out something that's really working for me at this point. But I'm hoping that's you. I'm hoping you're the kind of player who senses there's more. I got more. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I got to hit another 1,000 ground stroke, this week in drilling. It doesn't mean that I got to go all over YouTube and just hunt and peck and try to find the one thing that's going to make a big difference. I really hope that you sort of feel that mentally, that if you spend some more time on it, and if you habituate it, and I'm going to present these ideas to you next week, that if you were to do that, that the other stuff might get better, right? All the stroke production, all the stroke execution and technique might get better without just obsessively drilling over and over and over and actually doing a little bit of the mental work as well. Okay. And let's see. Keith, man, what's going on there, dude? Have not heard from you in a while. So I'm meeting and missed that. You always have great old man tennis. Love it. IQ. Okay, IQ. I didn't see that part. I thought it was an exclamation point first. Well, come on. I mean, we all do. I mean, we've all played how much tennis? I mean, we've hit so many tennis balls. Maybe you haven't played as many tournaments as I have. But whatever, you've still competed at a high level. And when I say a high level, all skill levels, it's all relative, right? And really what we want to do is play at the highest part of our current skill level consistently over and over and over again, and be able to go out there on that day and not be freaked out that, oh my God, I don't have my slice backhand today. Oh my God, I don't have the feeling on my serve today. Now I know I'm going to play at the bottom of my skill level range, right? And so the whole effort here, mindset wise, is to bring the bottom of your skill level range, bring that up, slowly get it up there to where now you're playing in a very small range, match in and match out. And when you do that, you know what? You're just confident. You just have a different feeling about being on the court. You have a different clarity of being able to figure out what that guy over there doesn't want. We're so consumed with ourselves. We're so consumed with our stroke production and how are we hitting the ball today? And, what happens if this match goes on for 3 hours? If I worked hard enough on my fitness and whatever, we're just overly consumed with ourselves, as opposed to getting that feeling of confidence when you have a very small skill level range, the very top of your range, knowing that you've got clarity now to probe and see what's going on over there. Be able to discover what that guy's hiding, what it is he doesn't want or she doesn't want. It's singles and doubles, doesn't matter. You're now confident that you can execute whatever comes your way at the top of your skill level range. So you're no longer concerned about that. And once you find out what they don't want you to find out, that's the winning formula right there. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to go out there and, I put this thing out, I don't know, maybe a month ago, play your game. I hear that all the time. All I want to do, man, is just play my game. Well, okay. But what if playing your game isn't 100% hitting on all cylinders today? And look, no one can deny that it's a day-to-day game. We always don't play the same each and every time we go out, right? There are little differences. And sometimes you have to adjust to those differences, maybe temporarily. Maybe your great forehand, whatever, is slightly off for whatever reason. But if you kind of go into, oh my God, man, I don't have my thing today. I don't have my forehand. How am I going to play my game? Well, maybe you got problems there, right? Maybe that's a mindset shift that we need to have you make. And what it would be is more, I trust my forehand. Never going to be 100% perfect, shot after shot after shot. That's okay. But my job today is to go over there and probe and find out what that opponent doesn't want me to know about their game. And once you find that out, why would you do anything other than just give them the whole buffet? Would just be on them over and over and over again on that thing. And then if they adjust to it, okay, do some more probing. Got a little distracted there. Phil, yeah, fame, same, different day. Yeah. So look, I've rambled a lot. Any more questions, let me know. And I really enjoyed this. Hope you guys got something out of it. Well, here's what I'd love for you to do. Shoot me an email. Just take literally just 45, 60 seconds. Shoot me an email. Tell me what you liked. Tell me if you got one thing, just one thing. Maybe it wasn't even an answer to your question. Maybe it was to someone else's question. But if there was one thing that maybe a bit of an epiphany, that if you could turn that epiphany into an ongoing daily habit, that, yeah, you might get good at that thing. I'd love to know what that is. And There we go. There you have it. So someone said, you still in Colorado? No. We were in Colorado, Steamboat Springs. We're building a house there about 30 minutes south of Steamboat in Oak Creek, Colorado, down by Stagecoach Reservoir. We're probably 7-8 months away from completion. But the guys have got most of it indoors now. So even if snow starts flying there, and we're at 8,100 feet. So it's starting to get a little chilly. But we actually drove back Wednesday, got back to the desert. We're here in Rancho Mirage. That's a story. Our car broke down Wednesday afternoon. And we spent the night in Cedar City, Utah. Great spot, beautiful settings, incredible. People could not have been nicer. And anyway, we had to rent a minivan, put all the stuff in there with 2 dogs, all the suitcases from bringing it back from being a month in desert. And then we met a great mechanic, great guy, highly recommended. He was cool. So we just left her car there, my car there, and drove the van. And Wednesday afternoon was no fun. Out in the middle of the Utah desert. How about 110 degrees? And the car's going, I've had it. Stop. So anyway, all good. All right, guys, thanks very much. And again, please send me that email. Just take 45, 60 seconds to let me know. And the other thing too is if I've helped you in any way, look, I'm short of a bribe. I'm looking for testimonials. And it doesn't matter what part of your game. I mean, if I've helped you in any part of your game, I'd love to be able to use it as a testimonial at Web Tennis. And the best testimonials are written in this format where it's like, well, here's the problem I had before, and here's what I got from Brent, whether it was a course or maybe just something like this, reacting, or maybe one of my emails, and here's where I am now, kind of the classic before and after story. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Get out there, help someone else have a great day, and we'll do this again next week. All right, guys, until then, I am offering that 15-minute free complimentary coaching call. I love it. I'm getting a lot of takers on that and would love to help you. If there's one thing going on with your game right now that you feel like you want some direction on, I'm your guide. You can find it in the emails at the bottom down there of each email. There's a link that will take you over to my online calendar, and you can cherry pick a date and time that works perfectly, copacetically for you, and we'll get her done. All right, guys, get out there, have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.